Was talking about the man Mandela and his legacy. Let's just start off by asking, what do you think of the man Mandela? Let's not talk about all the achievements. I mean, the internet right now is bombarded, you know, with his personality. What do you make of him?
Oh, I mean, without a doubt, when you talk about the man, to have gone through what he did and come out and forgive, which is the word we were using earlier on, I think it's a great thing. Sometimes I wonder whether he had a choice, in the sense that had to be the right spirit to move forward and get South Africa going. But yes, a great personality. And just about two days or so ago, we had the South African High Commission here. We had Mandela Day, which was part of the Mandela Foundation. And we had a great laureate, Wale Soyinka, who gave a little talk. And he mentioned the fact that he said he wanted to talk about Mandela, not as a great Mandela, but just as a man. Yes. A man, you know, and he gave an example of how Mandela, when he had his first breakfast in his halfway house, demanded that he wanted his egg, bacon, and chips, and all those wonderful things, which were going to be taken away from him because they said it might be too much of a change. And he said it was great to see him as a person. So here we have a great individual, a family man who's missed his family, somebody who sort of got out of there, and I bet you deep in his heart he was sort of scared stiff that how on earth am I going to cope with the huge challenge of running a country. Even though I've been fighting for this freedom, now it's more or less been given to us. How do we deal with it? So it must have taken a man with courage as well to be able to stand up and understand his limitations. And the only way forward was to have a much more embracing economy, a more embracing society. And there's nothing to be gained by fighting a system that has been dealing with you so cruelly, when that system in principle has actually owned the system, so to speak. So I think one of the things we must respect about him is this inner strength of appreciating the fact that, yes, we have won, but we haven't won yet until we really begin to take the next steps. And 25, 26, 27 years after, we know that there's still a lot of things that need to be resolved. And but we celebrate him. We celebrate him.
I want to talk about taking the next step. I just want to go back to what you mentioned earlier, the fact that, you know, when he came out, he really didn't have a choice. We're taking a look at a man who, of course, who had been tortured. His wife as well went through her ordeal, you know, as well. And then coming out, you know, at that point in time, South Africa was already under so many sanctions to begin with. I mean, I feel he had that right to keep the fight on. It just seemed we had a different person, you know, leave prison from the person who went in. I mean, he was this activist, was this, I wouldn't want to use the word aggressive, but, you know, of course, we knew what he represented at that point in time, but it just seemed he's also a totally different person when he came in. And I would say, you know, at that point, I think he had a right to want to hold a grudge against them if he wanted to, and I think he did something really extraordinary, and I'm asking myself, would any African leader today do what he did when he stepped out of those prison gates?
Yeah, but just also remember that this was a South Africa that had put black South Africans at the greatest advantage. You know, for you to be good at doing anything, you got to have great practice. So a lot of the South African leaders didn't, that were sort of in the wings, they haven't had the practice or the experience of running government, of running a system, of running a sophisticated society which South Africa we see it to be. And to come out there, you know, I mentioned earlier just before we started that it's great to be in the opposition. The day you get power, you realize and wake up in the morning that, oh my God, I'm in charge now. What do we do? What do we do? Where do we start? And for a lot of black South Africans, that experience was not there. That foundation was not there. So it was important that you step forward, and knowing that the white South Africans also didn't want their society, you know, that they owned up to that date, to be destroyed. So both sides had to compromise. Otherwise, we're going to have an explosive society. What had happened before Mandela was freed and the independence that followed was an explosive society, a society that just couldn't carry on. I mean, we reached the point where we can't carry on this way. Constant opposition, the whole world is against us, sanctions, economic challenges. We really have to try and find a way to compromise. And lo and behold, Mandela comes out and he says, well, okay, you know what? For us to be successful, we need to work together. And I will show the leadership, okay? I will show and tell the people that fighting is not what we need to do now. We fought to get to where we are. We can't continue to fight, so let's kiss and make up.
Just like we're talking about before the show started, forgiveness was the key word there. I think that was the key that really opened South Africa to the rest of the world, you know, and its economy. But beyond that, how much do you think Mandela did for South Africa in terms of course, the economy and putting black South Africans where they've always wanted to be? I mean, aren't black South Africans really facing those issues or still fighting for those same issues today? Do you think institutionally there was a major change?
Well, I think a lot has happened from 26, 27 years ago to now, without a doubt. And thank God for the fact that there was an institution, or you do have an institution that is pretty strong in South Africa, and it had to wean itself away from being an appetite-driven institution to one that says, okay, this is about governance. So you find the rules and regulations and call it the discipline of running government. You know, it still continues to show its way through. You also found situations where people have misbehaved in terms of corruption. Not that it didn't exist before, but all of a sudden there are more eyes on you. So we have increasingly growing and strong South African institution within which South Africans, both white and black, have had to work within. Everybody keeping an eye on each other. South Africans, the black South Africans, have learned a lot within that period. The learning curve has been very, very steep, and I think when you look at it and the way of governance today, they've come a long way, and one needs to commend them. In terms of the kind of things that Mandela did, certainly it was telling the world that we are not fighting, so don't fight us. We've made friends within, so we need you to support us. And if you continue to be aggressive, then the whole essence of what you've done, trying to support us, will be lost, because the very people who would continue to suffer will be the blacks, who have been in the lower part of society. So please help us so that we can rise up. And that's what's happened over time. The speed with which that has happened, that's why we continue to see a lot of problems still exist. And we talked about earlier on the African problem itself, with people in the diaspora going into South Africa and feeling that it's a place that they can make a living. And there's a lot of reaction from South Africans, black South Africans, against these.
But don't you think those reactions are coming, owing to the fact that black South Africans today do not own South Africa? They still feel, of course, they are still at the receiving end. What do you think is going on through their minds?
Yeah, and funny enough, you see that, because one of the things that I've said to somebody was the benefit of, let me say, Nigerians or people in the other Africans going into South Africa, is been trying to teach them economic emancipation. Own your shop, own your business, do things yourself. You don't have to wait for the system. And part of the reaction, not all of it, just part of the reaction you find is some black South Africans reacting to other Africans coming in and showing this rather strong entrepreneurial spirit of, look, we're not waiting for government. You've got to make your own business, be a shoemaker, be a car repairer, whatever it is, get up and do something. And those who are used to doing it, from Nigeria, Ghana, Angola, and so on, they go in there and they get on with it.
So clearly,
and it seems to be a
so clearly enough, Mandela has done his part. It's now left for South Africans to free themselves mentally and step into those shoes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on the show. Foluso Phillips there, chairman of the Nigerian-South African Chamber of Commerce.